Okay, don't laugh. Huskemaw. I've been wanting to try one of these scopes for a long time. They've often been made fun of. People talk crap about them. They've got a stupid name, a funky logo. The TV show made it sound like, oh, all you do is you take your turret there and just put it on 7 and press the trigger, and everything dies at 700 yards. Oh, how nifty. That's not how it is. They know that. They just don't show that in the show. So, what is this scope? This scope is made by Light Optical Works in Japan, I'm pretty sure. Same place that makes a lot of great optics. I think the SHV Night Force, probably the Super Snipers, the Zeiss V4. I think they even make the internals for the high-end NXS scopes that Night Force assembles in Idaho. But this is part of my review here. What I've done is I've set up a target you see way out there. That's at a tape measured exactly 100 yards. So the real test is, what does this scope do? That has lines on it that are marked perfectly at 5 minute of angle increments. And yes, I know how to measure a minute of angle, and it's not 1 inch. And by the way, this scope is not 1/3 MOA either per click. That's another little tidbit that needs to be figured out, and it took me a minute to figure it out. That the scope is not exactly 1/3 minute for every click. It's actually 0.36 inches per click. So I guess that would make it 10th mil, right? So I got it out there. The lines are straight up and down. So all I have to do with my fixture here is level it. I can move this part, adjust this part back and forth. I can adjust this. I can twist it a little bit in the rings, torque those down. I've got a lot of adjustment on that. What do I want to say about the scope? It tracked like it's supposed to, actually. The reticle moves straight up and down with the line, unlike Vortex PST2 with canted reticle. See if you can see this in here. If I can get the view right, what the view of this looks like. Still messing around with it. Sorry. Yeah, the PST2 brand new one. I bought 2 ones out of the store. The reticle tracked to the right as I adjusted the turret up for elevation, which is actually down, erector travel. Had about 3/4 of a minute adjustment error. The reticle traveled to the right. That same exhibit happened at for both samples that I bought from the store, brand new. This scope, the reticle tracks straight up and down, true to the lines. And once you figure out that this is actually 0.36 inches per 100 yards, then you find out that through 20 minutes of angle, which is about the travel that I will need this scope at, I've got 20 minutes of angle. That is with putting it in as 0.36 inches and correcting for it on here. So that is the correct amount. 1/3 minute of angle is not the correct. Okay, my camera ran out of juice there, but what do you get with this scope? You get the option of running either a capped, covered setup, or you can just run with your turret out like that. You get a capped, covered windage on here. That's what we've been asking for forever. Some of the times, a lot of times, most of the time, I think there's so much that is marketing when it comes to optics and not actually function. Capped windage is a one that for some reason so few scope makers and manufacturers want to go to. I don't know. It must not be tactical to have that covered. Okay. You have a zero stop collar here that adjusts up, so it's almost a little Night Force like, but I don't have the blue turrets that are the ones that are supposed to go on here permanently. Those you have to order. I don't have those on here, so I'm not sure how that works. It looks like it just has a stop there, but you're able to tighten that down where you want it and set your zero stop. So this will adjust above it up to the travel limits of the scope. You don't have to be worried about stuck in one turn. Yeah, I looked at the zero stop setup whenever this scope was at a trade show, and I found that it was awesome. So you get that. You get windage hold-offs, 1 MOA windage hold-offs on the horizontal stadia of the reticle. That's perfect for holding off. This scope was designed by long-range hunters in Wyoming. That's people that actually get to shoot their guns on public land, out in the field. And so I think that is a good thing. And the scope that certainly helps the design features of the scope. One of the downsides I see is the whole turret concept and being able to dial it and have it marked to your yardage. Some people make fun of that too. And they partly have a point with what they're saying. But I find if you're only going to be taking shots to about 600 yards, the atmospherics of your shot aren't important enough to cause you to miss, most likely. If your turret's set up and marked, you should be able to make a shot out to 550 or 600 yards with a laser etched turret. Now, beyond that, you really need to have a firing solution. That's where you use a smartphone app. You've got your atmospherics measured. That comes into play particularly at 800 and beyond. And at those distances, maybe you might ought to not really be shooting at a big game animal. If you can't get within 650 or so, maybe you need to get closer. Those really long shots, 800 plus, maybe that's not a shot that really should be taken anyway on a big game animal. So I do worry, and that's a downside I got wrote down here. I do worry about the confusion between 1/3 MOA, 1/10 mil actually, because this is actually marked 1/10 mil, although it doesn't say it. I was looking at that a little bit ago before I filmed this some more. That's actually how this is marked, is in 10th mils. This turret here, this is the one the scope comes with, not the blue one that you order. So one of the things I do worry about is, say you want to make a shot at 800 to 1,000 yards with this system. This is a 3 to 12 by 42, by the way. let's say you want to you run your atmospherics and take a shot that way. Is that going to mess you up on figuring out where, if you have that blue turret that's custom, how are you going to be able to figure out what the actual clicks are? So I guess you could stick with this turret it comes with, but then you're stuck with either or. Now the blue turret they do have does have the option of pulling up. It lifts up and you have a whole second turret underneath it that's marked. And so it actually has a dual calibration, so you could have a high elevation and a low elevation turret in one by pulling it up. I think that's pretty cool. I haven't ran the numbers to see how feasible that is and to see how well that would work. But I do worry about there being confusion between actually doing a firing solution and working with the laser edge turret that they provide with your feet per second and your load that you provide. I compared this scope to a Nikon Monarch 3 and then a Night Force Compact. Neither one of those scopes are known for their uber glass quality. I admit that. But this scope I thought was noticeably better between those two others. I didn't waste my time comparing it to my NXS full size scopes. That I just didn't feel like I needed to. I don't really give a crap how great the optics are, just as long as they're decent. What I'm concerned about is mechanical. And this scope returned to zero every time. I bet I adjusted this up and down 20 times or more, 20, 30 times probably. Playing with it, adjusting it, return to zero every time. I also found that the marks both on the reticle, on the horizontal stadia, the windage marks on the horizontal, I found those matched up exactly with what was in the scope on the markings, and I also found the vertical ones matched up too. So the reticle matches the markings on my backer board that I made. This scope, you know, I really wanted to find something wrong with it. I have to be honest with you. I bought it. Let's say I got a deal on it. I'm not going to say where, but I didn't pay retail for it. And I figured, well, if it sucks, I'll just eBay it or do something with it to get rid of it. But I'm pleasantly surprised with it. And I think it has all the features that a long-range hunter could really want. Covered or non-covered turrets, depending on what you want. Capped windage, thank God, finally. A reticle that's fairly simple. I don't know whether I can capture it in here. I've tried to do this. But it's got all the features I think a guy could want in a scope like this for a long-range hunting scope. A medium range. This 3 to 12, my intention for it is to shoot primarily up to about 350, occasionally out to maybe 500. That's my use for this. If I'm going to go longer than that, I want the 4 to 16 power model that they make in this. That's probably the range if I'm going to really stretch out there, but that's as much power as I need. I don't need the 20 power. I don't need that. This scope reminds me of the girl in high school that you were embarrassed to be seen with, and you didn't want anybody to know that you'd messed with. And I still feel like that. When I go to the range, I got this like camo, like vet wrap, and I'm gonna wrap the hell out of the scope, because I don't want anybody to know that that's like what I'm using. I think that's pretty funny. The logo on the thing's like ridiculous. I mean, what the hell? What the hell's a Huskemaw anyway? I don't know. The name's stupid. The Best of the West show is kind of hokey. But you know, I'm gonna shoot this like quite a bit coming up here, and if I have any problems, I'm gonna let everybody know. But I'm gonna keep this under wraps. I may even put some black tape over this so nobody knows like what this really is when I go to the gun range to sight this in and do load development. But you know, the damn thing works. It works as it showed. Will it suck later under recoil or something? Yeah, it could. But dude, this thing's got some freaking features. It's got a zero stop that you set, capped or non-capped. What else do you want here? It's second focal plane, which is, this is a 3-12. You don't need first focal plane in this. You know, in fact, quit worrying about first focal plane and use a little bit less powered scope, and then you don't have to worry about whether the power of the scope matches. If I need to hold off on those minute of angle ticks, I'm dialing to freaking 12. I ain't trying to dink around and take a power like some random power like 7 or 8. If I touch that turret, I'm going to 12 power. Oh, one little thing. This is a little tidbit. These little Arasaka little things here. You take this piece right here and put this on your scope rail, and then you take this and slide it up on it, and it levels the bottom here to the top of your rail automatically. Just slide that up, levels it. Pretty nifty. Give it a try. They work great. It's called Arasaka. You can find them on Amazon. Anyway, that's all for now. Give this scope a shot. It's made, forget the name. All these companies that make optics are pretty much marketing companies anyway. Hardly anybody makes their own stuff. Huskemaw is no different. Neither is, in most cases, Zeiss. Vortex, oh, good hell. Shit. They're not making they just make the AMG only. Most of their stuff's junk too. Give it a shot. Think about it. Thanks.